There we go. So yeah, like I said, thank you guys for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Chip, who's going to be doing the presenting. Thank you, Chip.
All right. Thank you, Claire, and thank you everyone for attending this afternoon. Also, this is a great service provided by the Autism Society of Greater New Orleans. And so, they really do such an important role, play such an important role in the lives of our families, and everyone that we come in contact with. Um, okay, so today, just kind of what to expect. We're going to talk about 30 minutes or so, about powers of attorney. What are the advantages of powers of having a power of attorney? What are, some of the disadvantages of not having one? What are some of the legal effects that happen if you don't have a power of attorney in place? We're also going to talk a little bit about what a power of attorney can do and what it can't do. Yeah, unfortunately, there are some limitations on powers of attorney. But for the most part, yeah, there's a lot more advantages to have the power of attorney than not to have it. And then toward the end, we're going to talk about the power of attorney day that we're going to have. I think this is our third or fourth power of attorney day that we've done with the Autism Society of Greater New Orleans. We have a lot of fun doing it. It's going to be enjoyable. It's a great service. It's a great chance to meet people too. It's a great chance for us to meet you guys, you to meet us. So it really works out well. Okay. I am going to, and also comments, questions, if you have questions, comments, just drop them in the chat button on the bottom, and we will hit those at the end of our presentation. All right, make sure I can get the PowerPoint to work. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm using two different screens, so bear with me a little bit when I look at one screen and not the other. So, just want to give you a quick, brief introduction about myself. I've been an attorney here in Metairie, Louisiana, for since 2004. We always joke about what do we do here. Yeah, I'm a board certified specialist in estate planning, but what does that really mean? And what do we do? We make three types of pizza. That's all we do. We do wills, trust, and successions. All we do is estate planning here. If you want a hamburger or you want a specialty, this or that, that's not what we do here. We're purely estate planning attorneys, and part of our job as estate planning attorneys is to protect and to help children with special needs. And how we do that is through the use of a special needs trust. Besides the special needs trust, the biggest tool in our toolbox, how we help children and parents of special needs children, is through the use of powers of attorney. Anything that'll make their lives easier, quicker, get the job done, be able to sign off on a medical authorization, that is what we're here for. Um, so just a little, kind of sticking with the introduction, I want to show you this is the reason why we're here. This is the most important reason of why I do what I do every day. I want to boil it down. I just want to make sure that if something happens to me, something happens to my wife, that my family is not going to have any problems. I want to make sure that my family is not going to have to go to court if I ever become disabled, if I have a stroke or something along those lines. I want everything to be in place so that as soon as that unfortunate event happens, my family can just hit the ground running. I want to protect my family. And after 21 years of doing this, almost 21 years of doing this, you know what? That's what our clients want. They want the same thing. So, we talk a lot about legacies and estate planning, and people always think, well, I've got to be rich. I don't have millions of dollars. I don't have a tremendous amount of wealth to pass on to my family. That is not the point. That is, and you know what I would argue? That is not even your true legacy. The true legacy, it's not measured by the wealth you accumulate through your life. It's measured by the impact that you have on your loved ones, on your children. That's what the true legacy is. It's your story. Um, we all know, look, our children are our most precious treasure, and they deserve, of course, our unwavering support. That's what we're here for. They also deserve our protection. And that's what we're here for, my law firm. Um, One of the most critical ways to ensure that you're going to protect your children is through the use of a power of attorney. If you can't make decisions anymore, we want to ensure that your kids don't have to go hire a lawyer, don't have to have you interdicted through the court system, which costs thousands and thousands of dollars. It's really a shame because it's such an easy fix by just doing a power of attorney. The other thing is, by taking all these small steps of doing the planning, you're really providing peace of mind, not just for yourself and your spouse, but also for your children, where they know that, look, if something happens to mom or dad, everything's taken care of. So that's really, at least in our consideration, the big legacy the true legacy that you're leaving to your children. All right. So what we're going to do now is just take a quick look at a real life scenario. Let's just say I know I have a father and son here. Well, let's just say, Jane, let's use two females, mother and daughter. Jane's a 24-year-old woman. She has autism. She lives independently, but she still needs help. She needs assistance managing her finances, making some healthcare decisions, things of that nature. Well, unfortunately, in the past few months, Jane's condition has worsened, and she's having some major medical issues, and they're very complex decisions need to be made concerning her health care. Her parents have always been involved in her care. They've always attended the doctor's meetings with her, helping her understand, and keep up with her treatment plan. In order to ensure that Jane is going to receive the absolute best medical care, the best care, and help her manage these decisions and her financial decisions also, her parents decide to have a power of attorney drawn up. When they do this, they are going to solve a tremendous amount of problems. Number one, and this isn't necessarily in the power of attorney, but number one, they're going to be able to talk to Jane's doctors. They're going to be able to help Jane make medical decisions. They're going to be able to make medical decisions for Jane when Jane doesn't understand the effects of those medical decisions. Number two, the parents are also going to have Jane execute what's called a HIPAA form. No one thought HIPAAs were really important until coronavirus came around. What the HIPAA does, excuse me, is the HIPAA is going to allow the people you've listed on that document to talk to your doctors. Find out if there's a medical billing issue, if there's an overbilling issue. As long as you have a HIPAA, you can take care of those types of situations. Now, the HIPAA doesn't necessarily give people the right to make medical decisions. It just allows them to talk to your healthcare providers. You remember when everything locked down during coronavirus, COVID? Well, you could, if you had a loved one in the hospital, you couldn't find out what was happening with them unless you had a HIPAA, of course. So Jane's mom and dad, Jane gives to her mom and dad a HIPAA form and a power of attorney form. So she's good to go. Now Jane's parents can manage all of her bank accounts. They can make sure that her bills are getting paid. Because remember, Jane lives independently. But Jane's medical condition is worsening, so she can't always keep track of what bills were paid, if Clico or Atmos Energy was paid. Um, the other thing the power of attorney will do in this situation, this example, it will allow Jane's parents to apply for any government benefits that Jane's entitled to, because Jane may not be able to do that at this point. So that's just a brief example of, of course, some of the advantages of having a power of attorney. As you can see on your screen, the unfortunate truth is, in fact, is that once your child turns 18, they're an adult. They are the only ones that can make decisions for themselves unless there's a power of attorney in place. And this is probably the most important thing for parents of children with special needs. If your child has the ability to do a power of attorney, to sign a power of attorney, you are going to save yourself a tremendous amount of grief later on down the road. And then what it's going to do is that power of attorney is going to give you the ability, number one, to support your child, and number two, to make sure your child's interests are protected. That's why it is so important that, and I know this meeting isn't about continuing tutorships, but I always want to bring that up when I talk to parents of children with special needs. If your child would not be able to sign a power of attorney when they turn 18, because at age 18, parental authority is over with, it ends. The only exception is if you have your child do what's called, if you do a continuing tutorship for your child. And the rules, they're pretty strict on continuing tutorships, but basically what it will do, it will allow you as the parent to maintain control and decision-making authority over your child. So again, let's go back to the point of this meeting, whereby we're only talking about powers of attorney. If your child can generally understand the effect of signing that power of attorney, they don't need to understand every single thing that's contained in the power of attorney because it's 10 pages long. They don't need to understand bank mortgages and how that works, a collateral mortgage or whatever. They just need to generally understand that they're giving their parent, whomever, the right to make medical decisions, financial decisions on behalf of themselves. So we always have to keep that in mind. Um, Question comes up. Well, what can I do? How can I help? How can I help my child? How can I retain control, still be in charge of making decisions for my child who has a disability? Well, there's three basic tools on how we do this. Of course, option number one, the easiest option, if your child can do it, we do a power of attorney, fairly simple process. The second option, which I just alluded to, is a continuing tutorship. And again, I think I saw a note pop up in the comments about, let me just take a quick look. Yeah, they've got Claire can post we have an upcoming continuing tutorship webinar on September 17th. So tune in for that one. It'll be fun. It'll be a good one. The third tool is the kind of like the one of last resort, and it's called an interdiction. Unfortunately, that's the big court hearing where we've got to get a court-appointed attorney to represent your child. The judge is going to oversee the process. It takes a long time. It is fairly expensive to do, but that's the one we want to avoid. And if we take the proper steps, if we can, and by doing a power of attorney or doing a continuing tutorship, then we're golden. We don't have to worry about an interdiction. All right. Oops. Okay. So what is our mission here? What is our mission today? It's simply this. We're here to assist families of autistic children and autistic adults that are living independently to be able to provide them access to essential legal planning tools, namely the powers of attorney. The intent that we have, the whole purpose of this is to provide the most least restrictive manner of being able to handle your child's affairs. That's what the power of attorney is going to do. Okay. So we really have a couple different types of powers of attorney that we do. But for the purposes of today and what we're going to do, provide to the families, to you guys on our power of attorney day, is called a general power of attorney. And what that's going to be is a combination of both financial decision making authority and healthcare making decision authority, where you're going to have, by signing this power of attorney, you're going to have access to medical records. You can talk to your child's healthcare personnel. You can make, consent to treatment, or say, no, my child would never want to have that type of treatment, or the risk are too involved. The risks are too high for this type of treatment. You, as the parent, will be able to make those decisions. And it's also going to involve, the one that no one that we don't want to talk about is end of life treatments. You're going to have the ability to say yes or to say no to certain end of life procedures, end of life care, I should say. On the financial side, the best way to explain this in, everyday terms, if you can't go, we're going to provide a way. If you can't go to the bank anymore, then the person you named on the power of attorney will be able to handle that, your banking for you. If you have to sell your car, but you can't sign your name anymore, then the power of attorney will allow the person that you name as what's called the agent under the power of attorney to make those decisions and to handle those transactions. So the power of attorney that we're going to provide you guys is going to cover everything that you could ever want. And again, we'll talk about that at the very end. One of the on for our power of attorney day, one of the other things the power of attorney will need to do, especially if your child is working, you got to file a tax return. The power of attorney will allow you, as the parent, you or the agent, to file tax returns for your child. No one wants to do that, I know, but sometimes it has to be done. Opening mail. You can change an address, mailing address. You can handle all the mailing for your child. So it's really a very powerful tool that we use in our toolbox. All right. A lot of myths and misconceptions about powers of attorney. The big myth is a power of attorney will grant, I don't want the person to have full control over everything in my life. I don't want to sign a power of attorney because I don't want this person to ever commit me into some kind of facility. The truth of the matter is that a power of attorney does have defined limitations. There's some things that you cannot do with a power of attorney. Another big I wouldn't say myth, it's more of a misconception. A lot of people will come to us because we do a lot of probate work. When someone dies, we handle their estate. And they'll come to us and say, well, I've got a power of attorney for mom. Can I just take care of all of her banking accounts and do this and that and transfer all the assets with the power of attorney now that mom has passed away? The answer is no. A power of attorney ends upon the person's death. So if I granted Susie a power of attorney to handle all of my affairs, when I die, that power of attorney dies. That is when a will kicks in. A will kicks in after death. Power of attorneys are only applicable or in force while you are alive. So I just want to, make sure everyone understands that. And they're two separate documents. Power of attorney is for while you're alive. Will is for when you pass away. And they also serve two separate functions. Um, I had a case. Oh gosh, it's probably been 8 years now, where we had to interdict someone, and the opposing counsel was trying to use a power of attorney, believe it or not, to change the person's will while they were alive. And it was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't believe that someone was saying, well, I've got a power of attorney. I'm just going to change their will the way I want it to. And, fortunately, of course, the court was like, no, you cannot do that. You cannot use a power of attorney to change someone's will. So I just want to make sure everyone's, we kind of clear the air on some of these misunderstandings, is a nice way to put it. Um, why is the power of attorney so important? Yeah, I think I've alluded to a lot of it so far. It's just going to enable someone, and here's the important part, that you trust. It's going to enable someone that you have chosen, not a court, not anyone else. You choose the person who you want to handle your affairs. It allows them to handle your affairs, handle your business. A big one is if you have a power of attorney in place, it is going to significantly reduce a lot of confusion and conflicts and delays that just naturally occur when someone starts to lose capacity. That's a big time benefit of a power of attorney. And thirdly, it's going to make sure that your wishes are respected. I want Susie to be my power of attorney. I don't want my brother Jimmy, who I haven't spoken with in 25 years, to be my power of attorney. So it allows you to pick the person you want to be in charge of your life. The big one here is the interdiction. If you do not have a power of attorney in place, this is what we try to avoid at all costs. If you don't have a power of attorney in place, and for all the parents in here, well, I guess everyone attending, think about your parents. If your parents don't have a power of attorney in place and they start getting to the age where they start developing dementia, Alzheimer's, things of that nature, they can't make decisions anymore. They can't sign legal documents. They can't sell their house if they have to move. The only option you have at that point is to go through an interdiction. And again, that's the court process that the court oversees all of the affairs of the person who no longer has the capacity to handle their own affairs. Um, the bad part about an interdiction also, you, you get the double whammy. Not only do you pay for your attorney's fees, the attorney who handles your stuff, the interdiction, you also have to pay for the court appointed attorney, because the court's going to appoint an attorney. They have to appoint an attorney to watch out for the proposed interdict. Now, this job ends once the judge says, okay, Miss Betty is no longer able to handle her affairs. The interdiction's proven. Now, her daughter Susie is the curator. At that point, the court appointed attorney's job is over, but you still have to pay for that until you get to that point. So it's really, really expensive. And we just want to get the word out to everyone. Do what you have to do to avoid this. Okay. Who are the parties to this dance, the power of attorney dance? It's really easy. You have two main parties. Number one is the principal. The principal is the person who is signing the power of attorney saying, I want Susie to handle my affairs if I cannot handle my affairs. You're allowing someone to take action on behalf of you through this power of attorney. The second person to the dance is called the agent. And I've said the word agent a few times here. And, this is just a make sure everyone understands what I'm talking about. The agent is the person receiving the power of attorney. So in my example, I'm the principal. I'm giving a power of attorney to Susie. Susie is now the agent. The agent does not have to sign the document. That's, a lot of people think, well, I can't do this because the only person I can give a power of attorney to is, Brenda, and Brenda lives in Rhode Island and she never comes in town. That is not true at all. The only person required to sign is the person giving the power of attorney, myself. Brenda doesn't have to sign it. I think I may be jumping ahead, but I just want to, make sure everyone knows that anytime there is a power of attorney in place under our rules in Louisiana, the power of attorney doesn't necessarily absolutely have to be signed in front of a notary and two witnesses, but it should be. It is poor legal practice to not sign a power of attorney in front of a notary and two witnesses. And the reason for that is, and I'm trying not to get into too much of a lecture on this part, but if a power of attorney wants to sell a house because the person can't live, the disabled person can't live in the house anymore, and they need to sell the house, unless that power of attorney is signed in front of a notary and two witnesses, you cannot use the power of attorney to sell the house. So a lot of people are worried about, if I give Susie the power of attorney for me, is she going to steal my money? Is she going to take all the money and run to Vegas and blow it all? Well, the answer is she shouldn't, because the power of attorney acts as a fiduciary. And what a fiduciary simply means is, number one, don't steal the other person's money. Number two, you have to act in the best interest of your principal, of the person giving you the power of attorney. Um, a fiduciary also should be avoiding conflicts of interest, self-dealing, saying, well, you know what, I'll just use the Jimmy's debit card. Jimmy gave me the power of attorney. I'll just use Jimmy's debit card and put gas in my own car since I'm going to visit Jimmy anyway. You cannot do that. You cannot, deal on your own account with a power of attorney. One of the big things about fiduciaries is they need to keep accurate records. They need to keep the bank statements. That's really, really important, because what happens is, when the person dies, all the other kids or siblings say, well, wait a second, Jimmy had whatever, $100,000 in his bank account. Why is there only $10,000 now when Jimmy died? So if you are acting as a power of attorney for someone, you do want to keep really good records, and it's really easy. You just I tell all my clients, get a file folder, put POA on it, and every time you get a bank statement each month, put it in that file folder. Well, nowadays it's even easier because you can just scan everything and you can save it on your computer so you don't have all that paper lying around. Um, Another thing that gets overlooked a lot is if say I give the power of attorney to Susie about once a year, and I still have a little bit of ability to understand what's happening. Susie should meet with me once a year and say, okay, Chip, here's what happened this year. We started off with $20,000 in your account. We're down to $16,000. You're paying too much for your homeowner's insurance. I want to change that. You should talk with the person who gave you the power of attorney, and you don't have to do it every day, but at a bare minimum, at least once a year, it's a good idea just to meet with them and tell them you're doing great. This is how your accounts look. This is what I intend to do, and that's all you have to do. Okay. Again, we kind of, not to beat a dead horse to death, but we've already gone over fiduciary. Basically, don't use the money for your own good. It's to be your sole purpose is to use that person who gave you the power of attorney, to use their funds, take care of their property for their benefit. It is not for your benefit. Um, we get this question quite often is, what do I do? We've signed a power of attorney, Chip. Great. Now what do I do? Well, the first thing you need to do is go to the bank. You give the bank the power, a copy. That some banks will say, give me the original and we'll make a copy. And that's fine. But don't ever leave the bank with the bank holding the original. You always want to keep control of that original. You give a copy to the bank will make its own copy or whatever. The bank will then, and we really recommend this, create a new account, called John Doe Power of Attorney account. And whenever you transact business, it's really easy. If it's for just regular old everyday stuff, you can just sign your name and put POA. Like if you're signing a check on that power of attorney account, you would sign John Smith, POA. But when you sign official documents, such as the sale of a house, or you're buying a car or selling a car on behalf of your principal, you need to sign it exactly as follows: John Doe by Jane Smith as agent under the power of attorney. That gets to be really important. But for the purposes of today, don't worry about having to remember this. Don't worry about writing this down. I'm sure some of you have already written it down. Because if you do go to a house closing where you buy or sell a house, the title company is going to put that in there anyway. But I just want you all to take the big takeaway is all you have to do is sign John Smith, your name, POA, in your golden. Okay. All right. Let's get into some of the questions that we're gonna that come up every so often about our power of attorney signing event. All right. Who's eligible for this? Who can do this? Well, we're here for the Autism Society of Greater New Orleans. So anyone, any individual who has autism that lives independently, or this is also for the caregivers of autistic children, autistic individuals. So it's going to cover both sides here. We really want everyone to benefit from this. In order to sign the power of attorney, you have to be at least 18 years old. You also have to be of what we call of sound mind. As I said in the beginning, you don't need to know, the differential equations, and you don't need to know what a collateral mortgage, your power of attorney can sign a collateral mortgage. You don't need to know that. The person signing the power of attorney needs to have a general understanding of the effect of what they're signing. I'm giving the power of attorney to Susie. I understand that Susie can now handle my banking accounts, file my tax returns, sell my car, again, if it's in my best interest. That's the legal standard. They need to have a general understanding of what they're doing. We have some geographic limitations on this. Anyone, Jefferson Parish, Orleans, Plaquemine, St. Bernard, St. Tammany, St. Charles, the greater New Orleans area. St. James, LaPlace, St. John the Baptist Parish, and Washington Parish are all eligible to attend this event, and so that they can get their power of attorney done. We do have to have a limit on this, and it's limited to one power of attorney per household. So, we want everyone to make sure we know the rules. Okay, fair enough. All right. Um, I have in here Louisiana requires you sign the power of attorney in front of two witnesses and a notary public. Let's just stay with that rule because that's how we do our powers of attorney. Yes, technically you do not it doesn't have to be notarized. But I'm going to tell you, if a bank's going to look at a power of attorney, if you're going to sell a car, you're going to sell a house, it has to have two witnesses and a notary public. Witnesses have to be competent witnesses. So if you're doing the power of attorney and you have your 99-year-old neighbor act as a witness and they have severe Alzheimer's, they cannot be a witness. Witnesses have to be 18, of course. The person you name as your power of attorney, your agent, they cannot be a witness either. So just want everyone to, make sure we understand who can be a witness. Do not worry about witnesses for our event because we're going to provide the witnesses. It's just all of our team members. You'll see me be a witness. So um, this is free. This is completely complimentary. There is no cost at all. We don't require, the Autism Society is not requiring donations. However, we do ask that if you would like to donate, we would absolutely, the Autism Society would be very, very grateful for any donations. And all the donations, you guys all know, it's going to support children with autism, family with autism. the Autism Society of Greater New Orleans and all the services, wonderful services that it provides. All right. Uh, the only person that really needs to attend is the person signing the power of attorney. Agent's not the person you're picking. They're not required to attend. But if they want to come along, that sure, that's fine. They can ask questions, that kind of stuff. We need to have a valid government ID in order to sign, excuse me, in order to sign the power of attorney. So we will ask for your ID. Just be aware of that. Or you can bring a passport. If you don't have your ID, state ID, you can bring a passport. All right, August 22nd is our day. We're going to have a really good time doing it. Can't wait to meet you guys. But if you can't make it, then what will happen is you still have to attend to pick up the power of attorney, and you can get it notarized by another notary as long as two witnesses are signing with you. Um, if you cannot attend the meeting, because we do have I think we're going to have a pretty full house at this one. Your spot is going to be forfeited. And if you can't make it, please call Claire so that she can make arrangements for someone else to fill your spot. That will help out a lot. All right. Always, whenever we do presentations, we always have one last slide, and it's the guy. It's originally an ostrich with the head in the sand, but here we have a guy with his head in the sand. Why doesn't everyone do this? Procrastination. Hey, look, I'll get that done tomorrow. We all know what that is. You put off the important things you should be getting done today, you put it off till tomorrow. The problem is tomorrow is always in the future. It's always tomorrow. You know the big joke, free beer tomorrow? Well, yeah, it's free. Come by tomorrow. Tomorrow, tomorrow. We never get things done if we keep putting them off. And the other thing is lack of knowledge. That's another reason why people don't plan. So everyone who's taken the time out to attend today, you cannot say, well, I didn't know anymore. So everyone has the knowledge and they know what they need to do to get their affairs in order. Um, one of our mottos here is fingers crossed is not a plan. I'm sure it'll work out great, or I hope everything works out. That's not a plan. The onus is on you to get the planning done. And again, by attending today, you have the knowledge, you understand what needs to happen. So let's get a plan in action. And I'm telling you guys, it's going to save a tremendous amount of problems by having this simple document done. And it's free too. So, all right. Whoops. Oop. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And hold on one second. Ah,
I got you, Chip. I'm just gonna switch over and share my own screen. So you don't need to worry.
okay.
It'll automatically cancel your share.
All right.
All right, so just for everybody's information, I wanted to answer a couple more questions about how the actual signing event works. You guys will get a link to this registration form before we log off. You will have to go through an eligibility check on this form to make sure that you understand the event and that the people that you're signing up are eligible to participate. You will need to provide the principal and agent's names exactly as they appear on their IDs. This has caused some problems in the past where people didn't know what their ID said. So please, when you sign up for this event, pull out the ID you plan to use and make sure that you sign up with the exact same name that's on your ID. Um, the other thing is that you will be able to choose your registration time here. And you can see each slot only has 2 spaces available. The event will be at Morrison Law's North Shore office. The address is right here, but when you sign up, you'll also get it in the email. And we do ask that you try not to show up too early. You can show up about 5 or 10 minutes before your signing spot if you want to read the document before you sign it. But there's not really any compelling reason for you to come like 20 minutes early. So, that's just a little bit of information for you. I did want to mention that for any of you who are outside of our service area, we are often fairly flexible with the people who are allowed to sign up for this event geographically if you are willing to travel. And we have plenty of spaces to meet the demand. And at the moment, we do. So if you do live outside of our service area and you are willing to commit to driving to Chip and them's office on the North Shore, you are welcome to sign up and participate. So what I'm gonna do is I was just gonna make sure that if anyone has any other questions, and while you guys are thinking about that, I'm gonna grab the link to the sign up form.
All right. Claire, can I answer a couple questions in the
Mhm.
chat?
For sure.
Okay, so one of the questions was, are you suggesting we have a child sign power of attorney prior to turning 18? Do they expire? No, do not. If you're under 18, if your child is under 18, they cannot sign a power of attorney. Okay? You have to be 18 to sign a power of attorney. It's a legal document. Do powers of attorney expire? The the answer is no, but according to some banks, some very, very, very large national banks, they want to see a power of attorney within that's been dated within 10 years. There is no rule in Louisiana law, nor is there any rule in any other state that I know of that says a power of attorney has an expiration date. It does not. But we have to go back to the golden rule. Whoever holds the gold makes the rules. So the banks, they want to see powers of attorney that are within 10 years. It is what it is. Um, Next question, how about an adult who has Asperger's? Are they eligible?
Yes.
It's not so much as yeah, they're eligible. It's not so much as what condition you have. It's more of, do you have a general understanding of what you're doing? Does the child work? Does the person with Asperger's, do they have a job? Do they understand that, yes, my parent will be able to handle my affairs? Sure, they can do it. Oh, Claire, you already answered that question. Thank
Yeah.
you. Let's see.
I
I
was
think
staying on top of
Claire,
things.
yeah. All right.
I think the only other one I see that you should answer is Gladys's question. She asked, we have a continuing tutorship for our son. Will we need a power of attorney along with this, or will it be better for how to have the POA for us?
All right. If Gladys, if I understand that correctly, your son who has the continuing tutorship, you do not need a power of attorney. You are golden for the rest of your life. Okay. So good job. You're good. It is recommended that you have the power of attorney, that you give it to someone else. For you, Gladys, yes, you should have a power of attorney. Absolutely.
And you're welcome to sign up for one. So just to clarify for everybody, even if the person you're supporting in your life isn't eligible to participate in this event for whatever reason, you as the caregiver are, and you can get one for yourself if you do not currently have one. And you should, because everyone should have one.
Yeah. All righty. I appreciate it very much. And Claire is putting the link up there and all that good stuff. Hope I get to see you all. We get a chance to chat on the 22nd, and we'll have a good time. So thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, Chet.
Bye.
Bye. So I'm gonna leave